When I go over games, I like to approach them from a few different angles depending on the situation. Sometimes I go into something without the best ideas already. Why? Because it's something I probably don't like, and nothing is really going to shift my opinion on it. But with such low expectations, I tend to appreciate its victories more. Other times, I enter something with extreme enthusiasm, and I expect the world only to be betrayed at the 11th hour. Paleomythic is a game, one that I went into with hope and left with an appreciation for the MASH theme song. Published by Osprey in the year of our Lord 2019 and written by Graham Rose, yes, it's another Osprey. Quite a few Osprey RPGs out there, but they do have a tendency to ping pong in quality. So does Paleomythic sell me on its story? Maybe. Paleomythic is set in the lost continent of Mu, placing it firmly here on the timeline. Perhaps I was lost in the pitch. I didn't quite notice a role-playing game of stone and sorcery on the cover. While the setting is there, it fits a lot more with the traditional sword and sorcery setting beats, but everything is using terrible weapons and supplies right now. The game itself is a d6 dice pool system with a hellish 6 to succeed. While you only need one success, my thoughts from Vaesen come creeping back as that 1 in 6 chance per die never quite sits right. But it does introduce the brave system of being convoluted as fuck to describe. You get a number of d6s equal to the number of your traits. You may have 3 to 5 to start with a weakness as well. Now, if we have here 5, for example, for any check we don't have a skill in, we're going to be rolling 5d6 trying to hit 6 up. If we are skilled in it, we get a bonus d6. If we have the weakness though, we lose a d6. Outside of that, the game kinda shrugs it off. It's not complicated, but verbose. Though this does make me bring up tools a little bit. You can get a bonus die from using the appropriate tool, something where the stone part of the title feels relatively appropriate. But as we are only really using d6s to work with anytime a 1 is rolled, the tool just breaks. This also extends to weapons, which means combat may devolve into 2 bad rolls and everyone fist fighting as all of their weapons stop working. Again, a clash of tones seem to haunt this game a little bit, but that can't be everything, right? Well, characters do have talents they can draw upon. Some of the only interesting parts in the entire game come from the mixture of abilities that spawn from these. Some talents feel like they have a lot of work to it. The storyteller not only gets a lot of money, but also memory abilities, equipment, and such, while the savage should feel a little bit more impactful, gets a d6 to dodge attacks on a 6 and lose it if they roll a 1, or the thief being immediately hard countered by someone with a fairly universal ability. So none of that is entirely interesting. So what about items? Classic Osprey makes them look like ass and there aren't many to actually work with. Out of all of these weapons with all these different costs and materials and abilities, all that really matters is rolling the tool dice 6 to activate the special effect. Almost everything, unless augmented by a talent or its own special ability, does 1 damage. This doesn't seem major, but it makes armor functionally useless, as armor on page 117 clearly states that only 1 wound from a single attack can be negated by armor, and at least 1 wound will always get through. So if you trigger the special effect on your weapon, you can either ignore this by destroying the armor automatically, or have it ignored by destroying the armor, while also making the armor vastly reduced in value because it doesn't actually block anything, but shields can be amazing or it'll die on the first hit. And don't think wounds aren't major either. Every time you take 1, you remove one of your skills, making all subsequent checks harder and harder until you're KO'd or dead, leading to a rather nasty death spiral. But I think the key takeaway here is that combat is unsatisfying. Even the special abilities mostly boil down to roll a die to mitigate something or do something that isn't doing 1 damage. Everything about that malaise of whiffing, that 1 out of 6 rears its head as it's a lot of do fuck all if you fail. Even the example combat has 2 characters whiff at each other for several rounds. But then I look over everything and that same feeling permeates. This is unsatisfying, kept coming to mind. Combat isn't satisfying, crafting is like everything else, but since the system is the way that it is, everyone can kind of do it at the same quality. But then everything started boiling down to everyone is kind of the same except that you have different talents, which isn't being helped by them being also also unsatisfying. Everything about Paleomythic feels half-baked and overly long. 290 pages seems quite thick, but a small book and a collegiate essay in spacing and margins bulks the page count of a rather anemic system. I could sit here and muse about fixing it all though. The 5-up would be ideal, but oh well, we'll need to make armor satisfying, but then we need weapons to feel different, and then crafting, of course. And then I paused, realizing that my hope was betrayed by someone either calling it in or selling on commission. I wanted to adore this game, but I just left unsatisfied. My name is Notepad Anon, and this was Paleomythic. If you like what I do here, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. But many thanks to the Sacred Council of Old Maldic Scholar patrons for their continued support. Godspeed and good luck.